moving right along, I just want to give you guys one more look at what's ahead. We've got the self-care presentation, hopefully keeping it to around 10 minutes, some breakout rooms where we'll ask you those questions in that group conversation. So if you have to step away for a minute, just wanted you guys to know what is in store. I know we did introductions already, but I wanted to zoom out one step further and show you the full patient and family services team at CLF. Our department is growing in number and in the services that we offer. So you heard from Taya and Tricia. Some of you may remember Grant Shepard, who is our former patient services coordinator. He's still connected and still doing great work up in Canada, but he is now doing a full-time PT program. So we are super grateful to have Tricia with us, who joined this summer, and Taya and a few other team members you might not have encountered yet, including Dr. Sam Bureau, who's part of our strategy and oversight, and then obviously Dr. Nowinski and Dr. Cantu. One more person I just wanted you to be aware of, who is providing support and may be involved in a mentorship connection or a helpline connection at some point, is Dr. David Reese, and he is our on-call psychiatrist for difficult situations. He steps up and offers his time to help us provide guidance to folks that really need it in difficult situations. So the next side of this is you all, and I know you heard from each other in the introductions, but it's worth noting that a lot of you have come from very, very different backgrounds to get where you are today. And that's what makes this program so strong, is that there are so many of you with so many diverse experiences that we're able to offer peer support to quite a few people. So it's a handshake between the CLF staff and the volunteers, you guys. We really wouldn't have this program if you all weren't willing to donate your time and to take people under your wing. And it's a pretty spectacular thing that you guys do. So thank you so much. Just rounding out our big picture introduction there. And one second to pause on announcements. As I mentioned earlier, we are recording. We do have some Facebook groups that we really encourage our peer support volunteers to be part of. So I'll send these links out in a follow-up email, but if you're not already, please join one of these CC resources or PCS resources Facebook groups. It's a great place to interact with people between mentorship connections, or if you have some additional time. So that follow-up email will have the Facebook group links, some of the resources that we discussed in this meeting, and then just a reminder of past training links if anyone would like to see some of those past training topics. And then, of course, I'll include this recording as well in case you missed anything. Now getting into our training topic for today on peer support volunteers self-care. As always, just want to mention some of the source material for what we're talking about today. A lot of what we draw on will be from the National Mentoring Partnership, which is a multi-organization coalition that's helping improve the quality of peer support programs throughout the country. They offer a lot of great resources like the elements of effective practice for mentoring. And then obviously the source material also includes you guys and our experiences from the Concussion Legacy Foundation, and knowledge that we've worked to earn, and we're bringing that as much as we can to bear here. And of course, we'll want to hear from you all because you all have hard-won knowledge as well. Now, in terms of what we'll talk about in this segment, there's 4 sections that we'll cover. The first is just a reminder about what we have in our peer support volunteer training about self-care, and we have a brief self-care section, so I just want to draw your attention to that and some of the resources there. Also talk a bit about setting boundaries for yourself and communicating about taking breaks or taking necessary time away, or just signaling to either CLF or to a mentee that you have other stuff going on. We want to make sure you guys know you have permission to do that, of course. We have this, not something we'll do together, but something, maybe homework you could call it. We have a self-care assessment worksheet that we have used over the past few years as a good snapshot into how we're doing as staff and how our volunteers are doing. And it's a good way to just take a look into the immediate needs that you might be experiencing, but not quite realizing or seeing them in a big picture context. And then finally, we'll do those breakout groups. So on the first topic here of our peer support volunteer training guidebook, I just wanted to touch on what we tried to convey in the training, which is that there are going to be ups and downs in your mentorship connections, and that's okay. Some of the connections are going to be, overwhelmingly joyful and happy and light and mutually healing, and some of the connections are going to be really heavy and challenging and uncomfortable. Some may be both, some may be somewhere in between. That is normal. Nothing's gone off the rails if there's a really, really heavy conversation. And even if you are feeling the weight of those conversations or the weight of the burden of being there for somebody else, that is something we hear from our volunteers and we've experienced as staff as well. And while it's normal and okay, we always want to address it head on and talk about it, because it's not always sunshine and rainbows, as you all know from this community. And we want to make sure that in addressing it, we're also talking about solutions as well. This is more explicitly outlined in the peer support training guidebook, and I will link to this in the chat in just a few minutes here. The peer support training guidebook that you see over on the right, just in case anyone hasn't seen it for a while or hasn't seen it at all. We'll make sure you get the link to this, but remember, CLF is here for good stuff and bad stuff. So you can send us connection summaries if there's something exceptionally good that's going on with a mentee, or if there's something that's really alarming. You can always email help@concussionfoundation.org or myself or Taya or Trisha, whoever made that connection initially to kick things off with your mentee. And outside of the connection summaries, you can just over communicate with us. If you need anything, we're here. You're donating your time to us and to the mentees. We are, of course, here for anything that you need throughout the course of one of these connections. And we are here to help shoulder burdens. So you can ask us questions that your mentee asked you and you don't know the answer for. You can turn to us for help locating resources if you think somebody might benefit from speaking with a medical or mental health professional. These are burdens that we don't want you to feel overstretched on. So just remember, we're here and you can come back and talk to us. So on to the second topic here for monitoring self-care and making sure that you have what you need first. We just want to remind you that between you, the peer support volunteer, and us, Concussion Legacy Foundation, it is always okay, no matter what's going on, for you guys to request a pause or inactive status and come back later. You can specify which communication channels you prefer. So if you really just don't like getting emails because they get lost, we can work out a texting norm or vice versa. You can request an early end to a connection with the mentee. That's something that we talk about in the training and the agreement. If it's just not working out, we don't want you to feel like you have to make something work. And you can always request more information or ask for support for yourself. And if you ever find yourself thinking, man, it would be great to talk to somebody, myself, it's been a really long time since I've received care for my PCS, or I could really use help with X and Y. We're also here for you guys for that purpose as well. And then holding those boundaries with your mentee also is important. You are in the driver's seat and in the leadership position in these volunteer connections and these mentorship connections. So it is okay to specify connection frequency and length. We have that, kind of minimum threshold that we ask for in the training and the guidebook, which is for the first couple of months, you're connecting every 2 weeks, and that can be text, email, phone, however it works for you. And then as a relationship progresses, you can have more time between those connections, and then, just go from having regularly scheduled connections to more just kind of keeping in hand on the relationship. But within that, you are beyond allowed to specify that, hey, Ed, I don't have much more than 30 minutes for a phone call or I would prefer actually if we just texted, it's better for symptoms or staying organized. That is okay. And you guys are in the leadership position in these connections. So please do feel free to specify frequency, length, communication channel, also topics you just don't really want to stray into. You don't feel like you do need to speak about something that you just would prefer not to. Of course, you can redirect the mentee and just let them know, like, hey, I actually don't think I'm well equipped to answer that, but maybe CLF will be, let's connect with them. That's kind of a dual bullet at the end there. If you feel like something's out of scope, you can either just tell them, I don't know how to answer that, or you can tell them, I don't know how to answer that, maybe CLF will, and you can connect them again. So that's on holding boundaries and taking breaks. I know it's not very detailed and specific, but really I thought it was important. We thought it was important just to make sure there's really explicit permission there for you guys to have those very important boundaries and pause buttons. So the final thing here before we get into our breakout groups is a brief description of that homework assignment I mentioned. It's okay. You don't have to get it done before finals or anything like that. But just at some point in the future, if you think of it, please do take a look at what I'll drop in the chat once I'm done sharing my screen. It's our self-care assessment worksheet. And you can see from the top description here that it's a list of categories that you pick a line from each category and rate along this 1 to 5 scale. So for instance, there's physical self-care, and there's a list of categories underneath that, and you will rate each one of those specific items based, 1 to 5, and you can go down the sheet. We have categories for physical care, psychological care, emotional, spiritual, professional, and then how well you feel like you're doing achieving balance. You can kind of, it's a little bit, it may feel tedious at first, and it may feel kind of funky and sterile to just be like assigning a number to your emotional well-being, but we found it is really helpful just to see those things on paper and to be able to tally things up as a way to say, oh, well, I could prioritize getting out and taking a walk for 15 minutes at the end of the day, or I could prioritize cooking a little bit more, going out to eat, or just making time for myself. So